The Antarctic Research Complex rose from the endless white landscape like a ghost of human ingenuity. Buried beneath 2 kilometers of ice and rock, the facility represented the most classified project in human history. Massive electromagnetic shields and quantum dampening fields ensured that not a single signal could escape without authorization. Captain Marcus Chen studied the holographic display, his reflection ghosting across the multidimensional interface. Each line of data told a story of impossible engineering, a narrative that had consumed the best minds of multiple generations. The US Defiance was more than a warship. It was humanity's most audacious response to a universe that had yet to understand human potential. Around him, the bridge crew moved with practiced precision. Dr. Aria Nakamura, the ship's quantum systems specialist, adjusted a series of intricate calibrations. Her fingers danced across holographic controls that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Each touch sent ripples of blue-green light cascading through the complex computational matrices. "Final quantum resonance check complete," she announced, her voice calm but laden with subtle excitement. Years of work had led to this moment, a technological marvel that defied every known principle of space engineering. The ship's construction had been a global secret. Components had been manufactured in isolated facilities across the planet, a submarine factory in the depths of the Pacific, a research station in the Andes, a hidden laboratory beneath the Siberian tundra. Each piece was a puzzle that only made sense when brought together in this Antarctic sanctuary. Marcus remembered the early days of the project. It had begun as a whispered possibility during a classified briefing 15 years ago. Earth had been listening, collecting fragments of alien technology from crash sites, studying transmissions from deep space, understanding that humanity's survival depended on radical innovation. The Defiance represented more than a military solution. It was a statement of human adaptability, of the remarkable capacity to transform limitations into opportunities. Traditional military thinking suggested building larger ships, more powerful weapons. But the team behind the Defiance understood that true innovation wasn't about size or raw power. It was about intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to understand complex systems. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached, her tablet projecting a holographic analysis of the ship's adaptive hull. "The nanomolecular structure is stabilizing," she reported. "We're seeing response times that are 30% faster than our initial projections." Marcus nodded, his eyes never leaving the display. Each system on the Defiance was a living, breathing entity. Traditional warships were machines. This was something else entirely, a sentient platform that could learn, adapt, and transform faster than any known technology. Chief Engineer Samuel Torres entered the bridge, his environmental suit leaving a slight trail of condensation. He had just completed the final quantum drive calibrations, a process that had taken 3 weeks of continuous work. "We're ready for the initial activation sequence," he said, his voice a mixture of professional calm and barely contained anticipation. The story of the Defiance was more than a technological achievement. It was a testament to human collaboration. Scientists from every continent had contributed. Theoretical physicists from Cambridge worked alongside quantum engineers from Tokyo. Computational experts from Silicon Valley collaborated with materials researchers from Sao Paulo. Global conflicts had been set aside. The project represented humanity's collective response to a universe that seemed increasingly hostile. Traditional boundaries of nation, culture, and ideology had dissolved in the face of a greater challenge. Marcus touched a specific sequence on the holographic display. Quantum encryption protocols activated, creating a security field so complex that it would take centuries for any external system to even begin decoding its basic structures. The ship was more than a weapon. It was a message. A message that said, humanity was ready. Initiate primary systems, Marcus commanded. The bridge came alive with a soft, pulsing light. Holographic displays synchronized, quantum computational matrices began their complex dance, and for the first time, the US defiance truly awakened. The Galactic War map stretched across the circular briefing room, a holographic nightmare of conquered territories and dying civilizations. Each pulsing point of light represented a world that had fallen to the Krelax Imperium, blue for conquered, red for destroyed, grey for those awaiting inevitable conquest. Dr. Samira Ahmed, Earth's chief Sino-strategic analyst, traced the complex network of conflict with a laser pointer that seemed to tremble slightly in her hand. 15 years of studying the Krelax had taken their toll. Dark circles underscored her eyes, a testament to countless sleepless nights spent decoding the most complex threat humanity had ever encountered. The Krelax aren't just a military force, she began, her voice cutting through the tense silence. They're a systematic extinction engine. Each conquered civilization is not just defeated, it's completely dismantled. The briefing room contained the most elite minds Earth could assemble. Military strategists, quantum physicists, genobiologists, and communication experts sat in a perfect circle, their faces illuminated by the grim holographic display. They were humanity's last line of defense, and its best hope for survival. Commander Jacob Reynolds studied the map with a veteran's critical eye. He had spent decades tracking alien transmissions, building a comprehensive understanding of the Krelax method of warfare. They don't just conquer, he added. They erase. Every species they encounter is systematically stripped of its cultural identity, technological knowledge, and potential for resistance. The hologram shifted, showing detailed simulations of Krelax invasion protocols. Entire planetary ecosystems were transformed within weeks of occupation. Advanced technology was stripped and repurposed. Populations were categorized, some enslaved for labor, others simply eliminated as inefficient. Dr. Elena Rodriguez pulled up a series of technical analyses. Her research had been the cornerstone of humanity's understanding of the Krelax threat. Their technological superiority isn't just about advanced weapons, she explained. It's about a completely different approach to innovation. Where humans see technology as a tool, the Krelax view it as a living system of control. The room fell silent. Each person understood the implications. The Krelax weren't just conquering space. They were rewriting the very concept of civilization. Satellite arrays and deep space listening posts had been collecting data for decades. Humanity had watched, studied, and prepared while other civilizations fell. Every transmission, every fragment of technology recovered from crash sites, every intercepted communication had been meticulously analyzed. We've identified their primary weakness, Dr. Ahmed continued. Her pointer highlighted a complex network of quantum communication relays. The Krelax rely on a centralized intelligence network. Unlike human systems that value distributed processing, they've created a single point of computational control. Commander Reynolds leaned forward. Years of military strategy crystallized in his next observation. A single point of failure, he muttered. The room understood the implication immediately. In military terms, this was an exploit, a potential vulnerability that could be transformed into a strategic advantage. The hologram shifted again, showing the progression of Krelax conquests. Dozens of advanced civilizations had been systematically dismantled. The Ventari, once a thriving multi-planet civilization, reduced to scattered refugee groups. The Keltorn, masters of advanced biotechnology, completely erased from galactic records. "We're not just preparing for a war," Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice taking on an almost philosophical tone. "We're preparing to preserve the concept of individual potential. The Krellaks represent a form of systemic oppression that goes beyond physical conquest." Young Lieutenant Maya Chen, Marcus Chen's daughter and a brilliant quantum communications expert, spoke up for the first time. "Our technology isn't just about matching their weapons," she said. "It's about creating a system of resistance they cannot comprehend." The briefing room became a crucible of human potential. Military precision merged with scientific innovation. Every person understood that the US Defiance was more than a ship. It was humanity's answer to a universe that seemed determined to crush individual potential. As the holographic map continued its grim display of conquered territories, a sense of determination settled over the room. The endless conflict would soon meet its most unexpected challenger. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's laboratory was a symphony of impossible technologies. Holographic interfaces danced around her, quantum matrices shifting like living entities, each movement representing calculations beyond traditional computational limits. Her workspace existed in a realm where mathematics and imagination converged. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected intersection of disciplines. Quantum physics met advanced neural network design, creating a navigation system that didn't just calculate, it predicted. Traditional faster-than-light travel was a linear concept, predictable and vulnerable. The system Elena was developing would rewrite the fundamental understanding of space travel. "We're not just moving through space," she muttered to herself, fingers tracing complex holographic equations. "We're negotiating with space itself." Her team represented a global coalition of the most brilliant minds. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a quantum mechanics expert from Tokyo, stood beside her. His augmented reality interface showed multiple dimensional projections that seemed to breathe with potential. Beside him, Dr. Carlos Mendoza from Buenos Aires manipulated probability fields with an almost artistic precision. The quantum navigation system was more than a technological marvel. It was a complete reimagining of spatial movement. Traditional navigation relied on preset trajectories, predictable paths that could be intercepted or blocked. The Defiance's system would essentially create shortcuts through spacetime, routes that didn't exist until the moment of travel. "Look at this," Elena called out, expanding a holographic model that seemed to fold and unfold in impossible ways. The room's ambient temperature dropped slightly as massive computational arrays worked at peak capacity. Quantum entanglement sensors flickered with complex patterns of blue and green light. Dr. Tanaka's eyes widened. "The probability field is stabilizing," he said, his voice a mixture of professional calm and barely contained excitement. "We're seeing response times that theoretically shouldn't be possible." The breakthrough had multiple layers of innovation. Most significantly, the system could analyze potential routes in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It wasn't just calculating the best path. It was exploring every possible path at once, then selecting the optimal trajectory in microseconds. Lieutenant Maya Chen entered the laboratory, her augmented reality interface already synchronizing with the research systems. As the daughter of Captain Marcus Chen and a quantum communications expert in her own right, she brought a unique perspective to the team. "The military applications are just the beginning," Maya observed, studying the complex holographic models. "We're developing a technology that could fundamentally change how we understand movement, communication, potentially even consciousness." Elena nodded. The quantum navigation system was creating something more profound than a method of travel. It was a bridge between different states of existence. Traditional physics saw space and time as fixed parameters. This new technology suggested they were more like negotiable interfaces. Imagine, Dr. Mendoza said, manipulating a holographic model that twisted and folded like liquid mathematics, a system that doesn't just move through space, but essentially asks space for permission to move. The laboratory hummed with potential. Massive cooling systems worked to manage the incredible computational heat. Quantum stabilization fields created localized areas of impossible physics. Each piece of equipment represented years of research, billions in funding, and the collective imagination of humanity's most brilliant minds. A series of alarms began to pulse, not warnings, but confirmations. The quantum navigation matrix was achieving stability at levels that defied previous scientific understanding. Elena watched as probability fields began to align, creating a computational symphony that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. "We're ready for full systems integration," she announced. The room fell silent. They all understood the magnitude of the moment. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was humanity's declaration that the universe was more malleable, more negotiable than anyone had previously understood. Maya looked at the complex holographic displays, her augmented interface showing layers of potential that seemed to dance at the edge of human comprehension. "We're not just developing a navigation system," she said softly. "We're learning the language of the universe." As the quantum matrices continued their complex dance, the laboratory became a crucible of human potential, a place where imagination met mathematics, and the impossible began to take shape. The void of space erupted with unexpected violence. 12 Krillak's dreadnoughts hung in the cosmic darkness, their massive hull designs a testament to brutal engineering. Each vessel represented centuries of technological domination, weapons that could shatter planetary defenses, shields that could absorb entire energy barrages. The Ventari resistance fleet fought with desperate courage, their smaller ships darting between the massive Krillak's vessels like wounded animals cornered by predators. No one saw the US Defiance coming. Captain Marcus Chen's voice was calm, almost conversational, as he initiated the first engagement. "Quantum transit sequence activated," he announced. The bridge crew moved with practiced precision, their movements synchronized by years of training and simulation. The ship didn't simply appear. It folded into existence, warping the very fabric of spacetime around its hull. Quantum navigation systems created a momentary ripple in reality, a brief instant where the Defiance existed in multiple potential locations simultaneously. Traditional sensor systems would be blind to such an arrival. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the quantum matrices, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. "Adaptive targeting systems are online," she reported. Her voice carried a mixture of scientific precision and barely contained excitement. The first weapon strike happened before the Krillaks could comprehend what was happening. Energy beams twisted through space in impossible geometries. Where traditional weapons followed straight trajectories, the Defiance's quantum-enhanced armaments bent around defensive systems, striking at molecular weak points that the Krillaks had never anticipated. Each shot was a complex calculation, not just where to hit, but how to hit in ways that defied conventional understanding of combat. Lieutenant Maya Chen managed the ship's communication and interference systems. "Quantum communication dampeners active," she announced. The Defiance was not just fighting, it was systematically disrupting the Krillaks' ability to understand what was happening. The Ventari resistance pilots watched in disbelief. Their communications crackled with a mixture of hope and confusion. A single human vessel was dismantling a battle group that had crushed entire civilizations. One of the Krellak's dreadnoughts attempted to respond. Its massive weapon systems charged, preparing to unleash a devastating energy volley. But before the weapon could fully activate, the Defiance's adaptive systems had already calculated its entire operational sequence. The weapon simply shut down. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Completely neutralized at a quantum computational level. Captain Chen watched the engagement with a calm that belied the complexity of what was happening. Each moment was a dance of impossible calculations. The ship's quantum systems were learning with every microsecond of conflict, analyzing weapon systems, defensive protocols, communication frequencies. Tactical assessment, he requested. Dr. Rodriguez's display showed a real-time analysis that looked more like living art than traditional combat data. Probability fields shifted and danced, showing potential engagement scenarios that unfolded and collapsed in milliseconds. We're seeing response times that are 3 orders of magnitude faster than predicted, she reported. The Krellak's command structure began to respond, but response was impossible. The Defiance was already 3 steps ahead, neutralizing communication channels, disrupting weapon systems, creating computational interference that made coherent strategy impossible. This wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental challenge to the Krellak's understanding of technological warfare. 4 dreadnoughts went dark within the first 7 minutes. Not destroyed, simply rendered completely non-functional. Their sophisticated systems overwhelmed by computational approaches they could not comprehend. The remaining vessels began to retreat, a concept almost unknown in Krellak's military doctrine. Retreat suggested vulnerability, and the Krellaks did not understand vulnerability. Tactical engagement complete, Captain Chen said quietly. On the bridge, a subtle sense of historical significance settled over the crew that had just rewritten the fundamental understanding of space combat. The Defiance was more than a weapon. It was a message, a declaration that humanity's potential was far beyond what anyone had imagined. Outside, among the cooling debris of disabled dreadnoughts, space seemed to shimmer with possibility. The communication networks of the galactic community erupted into chaos. In research stations, diplomatic centers, and hidden resistance outposts, the news spread like a quantum pulse. A single human vessel had done what entire combined fleets had failed to accomplish for generations. The Krellak's battle group, once considered invincible, had been neutralized with a precision that defied comprehension. Dr. Aria Nakamura monitored the incoming data streams, her augmented reality interface transforming complex information into living visualizations. Quantum communication relays capture fragments of alien transmissions, each intercepted signal revealing layers of confusion and disbelief. "It's more than a victory," she muttered to her assistant. "It's a complete paradigm shift." The Defiance's computational systems continued to analyze the recent engagement, learning with each microsecond of processed data. Where traditional military systems would generate after-action reports, this ship was creating a living, evolving understanding of combat dynamics. Captain Marcus Chen studied the holographic displays that surrounded the bridge. Each visualization represented multiple layers of tactical and strategic information. Color-coded probability fields danced with complex mathematical precision, showing potential scenarios that extended far beyond the recent battle. "We're not just collecting data," he explained to Lieutenant Maya Chen. "We're creating a comprehensive understanding of alien technological systems." The ship's adaptive learning algorithms worked on multiple levels simultaneously. Combat techniques, communication protocols, technological vulnerabilities. Everything was being analyzed, categorized, and integrated into the Defiance's growing knowledge base. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached with a series of preliminary analysis reports. Her augmented interface projected complex holographic models that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. The quantum computational matrix is showing exponential learning capability, she reported. Each moment of the engagement has been transformed into a comprehensive understanding of Krulak's technological infrastructure. The implications were profound. Traditional military intelligence gathering took months, sometimes years. The Defiance was compressing entire decades of research into milliseconds of computational analysis. Lieutenant Maya Chen managed the ship's communication and data integration systems. Her fingers moved across holographic interfaces, coordinating the flow of information from multiple quantum communication channels. "We're detecting interesting response patterns from other galactic civilizations," she announced. The communication networks told a complex story. Species that had been crushed under Krulak's occupation were beginning to whisper a new word: hope. Transmission fragments showed increasing excitement, hints of potential resistance forming in regions long considered completely subjugated. "It's not just about the battle," Dr. Nakamura observed. "It's about demonstrating that technological superiority is not a fixed concept." The bridge crew worked with a synchronized precision that bordered on symbiosis. Each team member understood their role in a complex technological ecosystem. Captain Chen moved between stations, observing the intricate dance of computational analysis and strategic planning. Quantum entanglement sensors continued to capture subtle information streams. The Defiance was not just collecting data, it was creating a comprehensive understanding of galactic technological dynamics. Communication protocols, weapon system designs, computational infrastructure, everything was being analyzed and integrated. "The learning curve is extraordinary," Dr. Rodriguez said, studying a particularly complex holographic model. "We're seeing computational integration rates that theoretically shouldn't be possible." The ship's adaptive systems continued their complex analysis. Combat techniques were being transformed into comprehensive technological understanding. Each moment of the recent engagement was being broken down, analyzed, and integrated into a growing knowledge base that extended far beyond traditional military intelligence. Outside the ship, space seemed to shimmer with possibility. The recent engagement was more than a battle. It was a declaration that humanity's technological potential was far beyond what anyone had imagined. Captain Chen watched the holographic displays, understanding that they were witnessing something truly extraordinary. The Defiance was not just a warship. It was a living, learning system that was rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological engagement. Continued analysis, he commanded quietly. The technological symphony continued, each moment adding another layer of complexity to humanity's growing understanding of the universe. The diplomatic communication chamber aboard the US Defiance was unlike any negotiation space in galactic history. Holographic interfaces shimmered with living intelligence, quantum translation matrices, creating communication pathways that transcended traditional linguistic barriers. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her quantum communication interface, her fingers tracing complex holographic patterns. The upcoming diplomatic engagement would be unlike any previous galactic interaction. Humanity was about to challenge the entire existing power structure, not through aggression, but through a radical approach to communication and potential. Captain Marcus Chen studied the incoming transmission protocols. The Krulaks had requested, no, demanded, a diplomatic conference. Their communication patterns revealed a mixture of confusion, anger, and an underlying sense of technological vulnerability they had never experienced before. Incoming quantum communication, Lieutenant Maya Chen announced. Our augmented interface filtered through multiple layers of encryption, translation matrices working in milliseconds to decode the complex transmission. The Krellak's diplomatic representative appeared as a holographic projection, a being of complex crystalline structure, its communication tentacles pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that traditionally represented diplomatic formality. But something was different. The usual rigid posture seemed slightly off balance. Explain your technological intervention, the representative demanded. The quantum translation matrix converted not just words, but underlying communicative intentions. Captain Chen's response was calm, precise. We are presenting an alternative approach to galactic interaction, he stated. Each word was carefully chosen, filtered through multiple layers of diplomatic and technological analysis. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the communication matrices. The quantum translation systems were doing more than converting language. They were analyzing communication patterns, detecting subtle nuances of intent, creating a comprehensive understanding that went beyond traditional diplomatic exchanges. The diplomatic engagement became a complex dance of technological and communicative potential. The Krellak's representative attempted to maintain traditional dominance patterns, aggressive communication protocols that had worked for centuries. But the Defiance's systems were analyzing each moment, each linguistic nuance, creating a comprehensive understanding that defied traditional diplomatic approaches. We are not seeking conflict, Captain Chen continued. We are presenting a model of technological and communicative potential that challenges existing galactic paradigms. Transmission fragments began to spread across multiple communication networks. Other subjugated species watched with a mixture of hope and disbelief. The Defiance was doing something unprecedented, challenging the Krellaks not through military force, but through a radical approach to communication and technological potential. Dr. Aria Nakamura managed the communication interference systems. We're detecting interesting response patterns from peripheral galactic civilizations, she reported. The quantum communication matrices were capturing subtle information streams that revealed growing excitement. The Krellak's representatives' communication patterns began to show signs of computational stress. Traditional diplomatic protocols were failing. The Defiance's approach was systematically dismantling centuries of established communicative dominance. Your technological intervention represents a significant deviation from established galactic protocols, the representative finally stated. The translation matrix revealed underlying confusion, a hint of technological fear that had never been present in Krellak's communications before. Captain Chen understood the deeper significance of the moment. This was more than a diplomatic engagement. It was a fundamental challenge to the existing galactic power structure. We are presenting a model of potential, he responded. A demonstration that technological superiority is not about domination, but about collaborative understanding. The communication chamber became a crucible of possibility. Quantum communication matrices continued their complex analysis, capturing every nuanced moment of the interaction. Outside the ship, communication networks buzzed with anticipation. Lieutenant Maya Chen watched the communication matrices with professional fascination. We're seeing response patterns that suggest multiple subjugated species are beginning to reconsider their current situation, she reported. The diplomatic engagement continued, each moment adding another layer of complexity to humanity's approach to galactic interaction. The Defiance was not just a ship. It was a living demonstration of a radical new approach to technological and communicative potential. Space seemed to shimmer with possibility, watching and waiting. The heart of Krellak's territory pulsed with a complex network of technological infrastructure. Massive communication relays stretched across multiple star systems, a web of computational power that had maintained their galactic dominance for centuries. The Defiance approached this network like a surgeon preparing for the most delicate of operations. Captain Marcus Chen studied the holographic displays that surrounded the bridge. Each visualization represented layers of potential strategies, quantum probability fields dancing with mathematical precision. This wasn't just an invasion. It was a carefully calculated intervention designed to fundamentally reshape galactic dynamics. Quantum infiltration sequence initiating, Lieutenant Maya Chen announced. Her fingers moved across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. The ship's adaptive systems were preparing to do something that defied traditional understanding of technological warfare. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the quantum matrices, her augmented interface showing complex computational pathways that twisted through multiple dimensional layers. "We're not just attacking," she explained to the bridge crew. "We're creating a comprehensive systemic intervention." The first wave of infiltration was silent. Quantum communication nodes began to receive transmission fragments that seemed to originate from within their own systems. These were not traditional hacking attempts. The Defiance was essentially speaking the computational language of the Krellak's infrastructure, creating communication pathways that the system would interpret as its own internal processes. Supply lines began to shift. Communication networks started to develop unexpected interference patterns. Critical infrastructure systems received conflicting computational instructions that seemed to originate from their own core processing units. Dr. Aria Nakamura tracked the intervention's progress. "We're seeing systemic destabilization at a computational level," she reported. Her voice carried a mixture of scientific precision and subtle excitement. "The quantum infiltration is creating multiple potential computational states simultaneously." The strategy was brilliant in its complexity. Traditional military interventions would target specific systems. The Defiance was creating a comprehensive computational ecosystem that would systematically challenge the Krellak's entire technological infrastructure. Communication relays began to show signs of computational stress. Transmission patterns became increasingly erratic. Supply route algorithms developed unexpected inefficiencies. Defense system predictive models started to generate multiple conflicting potential scenarios. "Transmission of liberation coordinates beginning," Captain Chen commanded. Across multiple star systems, subjugated species began to receive carefully encoded transmission fragments. These were more than simple communication signals. They were comprehensive information packages containing technological blueprints, strategic analysis, and potential resistance coordination methods. The Ventari resistance groups were the first to respond. Communication networks that had been suppressed for generations suddenly found unexpected pathways of coordination. Resistance cells that had been isolated began to share resources, strategic information, technological innovations. Dr. Rodriguez watched the computational matrices with professional fascination. "We're creating a living, adaptive resistance network," she observed. The quantum communication systems were doing more than transmitting information. They were creating a comprehensive ecosystem of potential resistance. Critical infrastructure systems within Krellak's territory began to develop unexpected vulnerabilities. Transportation networks generated conflicting routing instructions. Communication relays started to produce transmission fragments that revealed suppressed historical information about conquered civilizations. Systemic intervention at 73% efficiency, Lieutenant Maya Chen reported. Our augmented interface showed multiple layers of computational analysis, probability fields dancing with complex mathematical precision. The Defiance wasn't just attacking. It was systematically creating a comprehensive intervention that would fundamentally reshape the existing galactic power structure. Each transmission, each computational pathway, was carefully designed to create maximum systemic disruption with minimal direct conflict. Captain Chen understood the deeper significance of the moment. This was more than a military strategy. It was a comprehensive approach to systemic transformation. Outside the ship, space seemed to shimmer with possibility. The quantum gambit was unfolding, each moment adding another layer of complexity to humanity's approach to galactic interaction. Continued systemic intervention, Captain Chen commanded quietly. The technological symphony continued, rewriting the fundamental understanding of resistance, communication, and potential. The aftermath of the Defiance's intervention rippled across multiple star systems like a quantum wave of possibility. Entire civilizations that had been suppressed for generations began to rediscover their potential, their cultural memories, their collective hope. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge, watching the holographic displays that mapped the extraordinary transformation. It wasn't a victory in the traditional sense of conquest. It was a comprehensive reshaping of galactic potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached with her final systemic analysis. Her augmented interface projected complex holographic models that demonstrated the full extent of their intervention. "We've done more than challenge a single power structure," she explained. "We've created a comprehensive ecosystem of potential." The quantum communication networks continued to pulse with extraordinary information exchanges. Subjugated species were sharing technological blueprints, historical records, resistance strategies. The Krelax's centralized control system had been systematically dismantled, not through direct conflict, but through a radical approach to information and potential. Lieutenant Maya Chen managed the ongoing communication matrices. "We're seeing emergent communication networks forming between species that have been isolated for generations," she reported. Her voice carried a sense of profound possibility. The Krelax leadership found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their centralized control systems had been systematically disrupted. Communication networks generated conflicting information. Critical infrastructure began to develop unexpected vulnerabilities. Conquered civilizations were rediscovering their technological and cultural potential. Dr. Aria Nakamura tracked the ongoing systemic transformation. "It's not about destruction," she observed. "It's about creating a comprehensive alternative to systemic oppression." The diplomatic communications continued, but they were fundamentally different from previous interactions. The Defiance had demonstrated that technological superiority was not about domination, but about collaborative potential. Other galactic civilizations began to reimagine their understanding of technological and cultural interaction. Captain Chen understood the deeper significance of their intervention. This was more than a military strategy. It was a comprehensive approach to galactic potential. Resistance groups that had been isolated for generations began to coordinate. Technological blueprints were shared. Cultural memories were reconstructed. The quantum communication networks created by the Defiance were not just transmission systems. They were living, adaptive ecosystems of potential. "We're seeing the emergence of a new galactic paradigm," Dr. Rodriguez explained, studying the complex holographic displays. Each visualization represented multiple layers of potential interaction, communication pathways that twisted through complex dimensional layers. The Ventari resistance groups were among the first to fully demonstrate the potential of this new approach. Technologies that had been suppressed were quickly adapted, shared, integrated. Cultural archives that had been systematically destroyed began to be reconstructed through collaborative quantum communication networks. Lieutenant Maya Chen continued to manage the ongoing communication matrices. "The information exchange is exponential," she reported. "We're seeing collaborative potential that goes beyond traditional understanding of technological and cultural interaction." Captain Chen watched the holographic displays, understanding that they had done something extraordinary. The Defiance was not just a ship. It was a living demonstration of a radical new approach to galactic potential. The quantum communication networks continued to pulse with extraordinary possibilities. Species that had been isolated, suppressed, and conquered were rediscovering their potential. Technological blueprints were shared. Cultural memories were reconstructed. Resistance strategies were developed through collaborative networks. Dr. Nakamura's final analysis captured the profound nature of their intervention. "We've created a comprehensive alternative to systemic oppression," she observed. "Not through direct conflict, but through a radical approach to information, potential, and collaborative possibility." As the Defiance prepared for its next mission, the bridge crew understood that they had fundamentally transformed the understanding of galactic interaction. This was more than a technological intervention. It was a comprehensive reimagining of potential. Outside the ship, space seemed to shimmer with possibility, watching and waiting for the next extraordinary moment of human potential. Continued exploration, Captain Chen commanded quietly. The technological symphony continued, rewriting the fundamental understanding of resistance, communication, and the extraordinary potential of collaborative possibility.